Tonight, an ITV News exclusive. One of 3 British schoolgirls who fled to join Islamic State is almost certainly dead. The girls, who were filmed preparing to cross the Syrian border, left their homes in East London last year. The family of 17-year-old Khadija Sultana believes she was killed in a Russian airstrike. On this programme, her harrowing phone calls home and how she had been desperate to escape Syria.
I don't have a good feeling, like I feel scared.
Well, you feel scared?
Yeah.
Why do you feel scared?
You know, if something goes wrong, like, that's it.
Also tonight, high five. Granger becomes Britain's most successful female Olympian.
Come in number 4, the latest woman to lead the child sex abuse inquiry.
And the climber who discovered it's best not to turn up to see Donald Trump without an appointment.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Charlene White.
Good evening. She was one of the British schoolgirls who fled their homes last year to become jihadi brides in Syria with so-called Islamic State. And tonight, ITV News can reveal that Khadija Sultana is almost certainly dead. Her family believes she was killed in a Russian airstrike. She was just 17 years old. We also have evidence in the form of harrowing phone calls from Khadija herself in Syria to her family here in London that she had been desperate to escape the clutches of the terror group and come home to her family.
The calls suggest that she was disillusioned with life in Syria and had spent months planning her escape with her sister here. But in one emotional call in which she said she was scared and wanted to talk to her mother, she said she thought her actual chances of getting out alive were 0. Our security editor Rohit Khatru has this exclusive report.
It's 18 months since they left. First to Turkey, then to Syria. 3 heartbroken families were left behind. ITV News has followed their stories. We travelled to Istanbul to trace the girls' route.
I don't really recognise my sister, the video, the CCTV we saw, because this is just not her.
But ever since, they've been trying to get them back to London. Tonight, we reveal how one of the girls wanted to return and her family's extraordinary attempts to orchestrate it after making contact from their East London home.
Things have changed. You know, the way she used to communicate with me, the way she used to talk about things is totally changed to what up until now she's scared of being there.
Her sister is Khadija Sultana, who was 16 years old when she left.
And then she told me that she got a job.
This is the start of a chain of events, of emotional exchanges that will end in tragedy. Khadija has told them the man she married in Syria has been killed and she wants to come back. From Raqqa, she's arranged a conversation with her sister.
I don't have a good feeling, like I feel scared
Well, you feel scared?
to do this. Yeah.
Why do you feel scared?
You know, if something goes wrong, like, that's it.
I know what you mean.
I'll never be able to.
I understand what you mean, and it is, you know, from where you are, I can understand that, you know, you're feeling like that is not abnormal. But the only thing I would say to you is just trust us.
You know, the borders are closed right now. So how am I going to get out? I'm not going to go through PKK territory to come out. I'm never going to do that ever.
They want her to leave in the back of a cab to get to a safe house.
Which side of the park is it on?
But first they have to establish her current location.
It's a square park, right? It's called Al-Baik. You know, the spelling is A-L and Baik is B-A-I-K. But how confident are you, like, say, when things are put in place and you have to get on a cab? How confident are you feeling in terms of just that?
Zero. Where's Mom?
Mum's home.
No, I want to speak to her.
You can call anyone at Mum's. She sounds very terrifying, you know, and she did get very emotional there as well. It just feels, well, I really feel helpless, really, thinking, you know, if I can just sit here, what can I do? It's really hard. I don't think she's ever made a choice by herself, has she?
No,
Anything.
that was the first one.
That was the first one and a very big one. But she's actually never ever made a choice by herself. I kind of just look forward for the next call. And that's what keeps me going. Okay, I know Sunday she's going to contact me and that's it.
But there wouldn't be many more conversations like this. The family received a call to say Khadija had been killed in an airstrike. This can't be verified, but the calls home have now stopped. Today, their former lawyer said there should be lessons for anyone trying to travel to Syria.
It's most unfortunate that that this situation has arisen, and one would hope that the only benefit out of this is as a tombstone and a testament to others of these are the risks actually involved in going to a war zone, to dissuade people from ever making that choice, really.
But Khadija didn't travel alone, and we don't know the intentions or the fate of the other girls she travelled to Syria with.
So Rohit, just awful for the family, particularly because you know, she'd clearly become so desperate to get out.
That's right. And for the family, first they had to deal with her departure, then they had to comprehend her decision, and now they must come to terms with her apparent death. And all along, not only hoping, but actually trying to extract her from Syria. She appears to have made the same decision that many Brits out there have made, that the reality and the propaganda don't quite match. And often the calculation seems to be that the risk involved in leaving and potentially being punished by IS is greater than the risk of staying there. But for her, she made the decision to stay. She made the decision to go out there in the first place, and she now appears to have become the first British female to be killed in the so-called caliphate since the launch of IS.
All right, Rohit, thank you very much indeed.
But for the people trapped in Syria, death is a daily occurrence. At least 4 died yesterday and around 65 others, the majority of them babies and children, were injured in what's believed to have been a poisoned gas attack on Aleppo. If true, the United Nations said it would amount to a war crime. As Paul Davis reports, many of the children suffered appalling injuries.
Struggling for breath, struggling to survive. Doctors say these are the young victims of the latest attack that breaks all the rules of international conflict. Hospitals in Aleppo released these pictures, along with a strong claim from medical staff who say a banned chemical agent, probably chlorine gas, was used against the civilian population last night. Rescue workers say this is the scene of a war crime. And the mangled wreckage they're recovering is what remains of barrel bombs that contain the gas and were dropped from government helicopters onto the rebel-held district of Azabdiya. This man said there was a strong smell of gas, then children began screaming and suffocating. Hospital CCTV captures the moment the first victims began to arrive. More than 60 people experiencing breathing problems, more than half of them children.
We know it's a chemical gas attack, and we're pretty sure that it's chloride gas because of the smell. You don't need a doctor to know the smell of chloride.
The hospital reports 4 deaths, including these 2 children and their mother. And continuing fighting around Aleppo means there is still no safe route to evacuate the seriously ill. While the Syrian government denies using chemical weapons, the UN says there's considerable evidence to the contrary, and use of chlorine gas, if proved, would constitute a war crime. Paul Davis, ITV News.
To other news now, and Scotland Yard are investigating allegations that a junior British tennis player may have been poisoned at Wimbledon. 18-year-old Gabriella Taylor became unwell during her quarter-final match last month and was forced to retire before spending 4 days in intensive care.
And police are investigating what they've called a reckless near miss between a drone and a passenger plane approaching Newquay Airport. The flight from Stansted on Tuesday was carrying 62 people.
Now, it really was one of the great moments of British Olympic history. 40-year-old Catherine Granger rowing to silver in Rio with Victoria Thornley. With 5 medals to her name, she is now the country's most decorated female Olympian of all time.
And after last night's spectacular successes, Team GB is still on course to match our record medal haul in London. From Rio, here's our sports editor, Steve Scott.
Great Britain.
There are moments that will last long after the Rio flame has been put out. Catherine Granger, her 5th Games, her 5th medal, and now the most decorated female Olympian in British history. In fact, it was so nearly even better. With partner Vicky Thornley, Granger was agonisingly edged out of gold. But given this pair weren't even selected for Team GB's original squad, today's success really is something special.
Here they go.
There was no near miss for the springboard synchro pair, Jack Law and Chris Mears. A stunning series taking them to Britain's first ever gold in diving. 9 years ago, Mears was given a 5% chance of survival after rupturing his spleen. A brush with death that inspired him to go on to make Olympic history, something that still hadn't sunk in overnight for him or partner Jack.
He was literally sat upright on his bed and just said, "Good morning, Olympic champion." It just doesn't seem right. I've heard it like 4 times already today and it just doesn't seem real.
It is, sensational, 0.17.
Since winning the kayak K1, Joe Clark hadn't been able to watch a repeat of his golden run through the white water. And he didn't mind admitting when we showed him, reliving it made him well up, something he also only just avoided during yesterday's national anthem.
I was looking at the Union flag flying high and I was on the top of the rostrum and it was kind of like a bit like gulp moment and I couldn't really sing along with the national anthem as I would have liked to, as I'd like kind of rehearsed myself that I would do because I was just too kind of choked up.
They say a surge of medals inspires others in the team. Justin Rose would usually get a £100,000 car for doing this.
He likes this, he's got
Here, he'll just have to settle for the honour of golf's first ever hole-in-one at an Olympic Games. And of course, many high fives when he gets back to the village. Steve Scott, ITV News, Rio de Janeiro.
And I'm really delighted to say that we're joined live from Rio by Catherine Granger. Thanks so much for talking to us. So was coming out of retirement worth it then?
Charlene, lovely to chat to you. It's just been the most craziest day. It's all still sinking in. It's still unreal. I can't believe I'm standing here with another medal. And I'm just very proud of the day we've just had.
And you were so close. You were up front for so long, and then it was only in the last 100 metres that Poland took over. Did tiredness just overcome you?
During the race, I mean, for us, this was about proving something, Vicky and I, to each other and what might be possible. The Olympic finals are very special and magical things can happen, and we knew we were capable of a medal-winning performance. We put the best we could out there. We stayed in the position for as long as we could. Ultimately, we couldn't hang on for the gold, but we couldn't have done anything more. And genuinely, as an athlete, that is the most thing you want to walk away from. You want to walk away feeling, I left everything out there on that lake today and I couldn't have done any more. And for Vicky and I, we both feel the same, and that's what we did. And it was good enough to win a silver, and I am very happy with that.
Not just good enough to win a silver, you've also made history. You're the most decorated British female Olympian of all time. Now, but it wasn't an easy journey to get to this point, was it? Because you weren't in the original squad, were you?
Yeah, we were a late selection. There was a time where it wasn't confirmed if we definitely would get to the Olympics or not, and that was genuinely just a matter of weeks ago. So it took an immense amount of kind of resolve and resilience to keep believing in the dream and keep believing that it could be possible. It's been the toughest year of my career without a shadow of a doubt. But in a way, those are the results that make even sweeter when you stand here with a medal at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So the question now is, you've done this, you've made history. Will we be seeing you again Tokyo 2020?
I love sport. I love being part of the British team. I love being a rower. However, I would love to be there in 2020, but possibly and probably not in a boat.
Oh, OK. Well, Catherine, thanks so much for talking to us.
And if that's good news, I've got some more for you now. In the last few minutes, Team GB's Richard Hounslow and David Florence have won silver in the final of tonight's men's C2 canoe double. So congratulations to them.
Absolutely.
Now, still to come on the ITV Evening News, the controversial child sex abuse inquiry gets its fourth chairwoman.
And the American man who went to great lengths to try to secure a private audience with Donald Trump. All those stories and more after the break.
Welcome back. The professor whose inquiry revealed at least 1,400 children were subjected to sexual exploitation in Rotherham has now been appointed to take over the troubled independent inquiry into historical child sexual abuse. Alexis Jay is the fourth person to lead the wide-ranging investigation, which was thrown into chaos yet again when Dame Lowell Goddard suddenly resigned last week. Emma Murphy has more.
She's no stranger to the complexities of abuse investigations, and Alexis Jay was today put in charge of the largest of them all, the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. That the previous incumbent described it as having a legacy of failure does not appear to have daunted the former social worker. I am committed to ensuring this inquiry does everything it's set out to do, and does so with pace, confidence and with clarity, she said. Be in no doubt, the inquiry is open for business and people are busier than ever working hard to increase momentum. Professor Jay oversaw the inquiry into abuse in Rotherham and commanded respect from survivors and families. As a result, she was appointed to the panel on this abuse inquiry and is now promoted to lead it after the chaotic departure of its three previous chairs. As such, there is a desperate hope for some calm guidance and expertise.
She's not a lawyer, but she'll be supported very ably by a team of lawyers, and she's very familiar with how inquiries work, so I don't see that as a negative at all.
In her new role, Alexis Jay will be looking into allegations of abuse at Westminster, in the Anglican and Catholic churches, and at children's homes across the country. The decision to appoint Alexis Jay means that someone with prior knowledge of the inquiry's workings will now be at its helm. It is an attempt to maintain, or perhaps more accurately generate, pace in an inquiry that has already been beset by delay and false starts. Emma Murphy, ITV News at the Home Office.
A mother, her two young sons and her partner's daughter have died in what police described today as a truly awful crash. 13-year-old Ethan Houghton and his 11-year-old brother Joshua died along with an 11-year-old girl. The boys' mother, Tracy Houghton, was driving them back from a camping holiday.
And hundreds of people living in and around Marseille in the south of France have been evacuated after several wildfires. Some flights in and out of the city have been delayed or cancelled because of the smoke.
And finally, there are many ways to meet the rich and famous, but one 19-year-old in New York went to extreme lengths to try and talk to Republican presidential hopeful Donald Trump.
Using suction cups, Spider-Man-like, he scaled the glass-fronted Trump Tower before police eventually grabbed and pulled him to safety at the 21st floor. From America, Martin Geisler reports.
This unorthodox attempt to gain an audience with Donald Trump was doomed from the start. As the 19-year-old man began scaling the tycoon's office block in New York, the man he wanted to see was addressing a rally 600 miles away in Virginia. As a crowd gathered below, the climber used suction cups to scale the 68-story skyscraper, changing his route as he went to avoid the authorities. But he came unstuck on the 20th floor. Officers removed windows and vents to reach him, then hauled him in, quickly and without ceremony.
I reached out, I took hold of his hand, and I said, "Sir, you need to come with me." And I brought him inside with the help of my partner, and we placed him in custody and handed him over to EMS.
The identity of the climber has not been released. He's currently being assessed by psychiatrists. He insists he's a Trump supporter and meant no harm. He may not have succeeded in meeting his hero, but he certainly got his attention. Martin Geisler, ITV News in the United States.
Well, that's all for now. Reggie O'Malley will be here with news at 10.
But from all of us, have a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.